it's a disciplinary type thing. And usually people will say and point to the coach when it comes to things as penalties and turnovers. Do you think this team, how much blame would you put on this loss and just the overall reflection of the Dallas Cowboys season on Jason Garrett's shoulders?
I actually would have to give him at least 40% of the blame, and I would like to give 30% to Jerry Jones, and the rest to Tony Romo. 30% to Tony Romo, because you have to look at, like I said, discipline. All of that falls back on the head coach. Jason Garrett is a former player, and he's looked at as a player's coach, and he was brought in as supposedly to be a disciplinarian, the total opposite of Wade Phillips. Because Wade Phillips, everybody loves Wade. He's a great guy, great personality, but let's just face it here. I mean, he's a glorified defense coordinator. You know, he's a defense coordinator because you can tell, because look what he's doing in Houston. He got those guys playing out of their minds. But I would have to give at least 40% of the blame to Jason Garrett, because when it comes to making those decisions the head coach is supposed to make, when it comes to time management, calling the plays, it almost seems as if he can't handle calling plays and being the head coach. Because I think that if he would relinquish his play calling, maybe we'll be able to see how he is as a head coach, and if he is the head coach moving forward. But being that he is calling the plays and making those head coaching decisions, I think the blame is going to have to fall back on him.
All right, I want to switch gears from the NFC East to the AFC East. Talked about the AFC East has some mediocre teams, and how all those teams have struggled, and I agree, and even including New England. Those two teams that face today at the New Meadowlands between the Jets and the Dolphins just ran away with it, and a lot of people, saying, Tebow was the blame today because as the punt protector, he missed his assignment and the punt was blocked, and Dolphins got a touchdown there, and it kind of changed the game, and all these different things, and what is Sanchez doing? What is Rex doing? Are the Jets a playoff contender? Especially some people thought, they played so well against New England, maybe they're back on track. It's a whole wreck here. I call them the New York not yet. Javaris, do you think they have any chance at the playoffs with all these things that have happened in this entire season?
To simply put it, no. Because you have to look at Rex Ryan as a head coach. He had some very good flashes when he first started out. They went to back-to-back AFC championships, but like you said, the NFL stands for not for long, and basically the adage is, what have you done for me lately? And I think Rex Ryan is going to be the coach to fall on the sword at the end of the season, because you got to look at, and also the general manager as well, trading for a Tim Tebow and not using him. Why did you bring Tim Tebow in? Why did you trade for Tim Tebow? What kind of weapons have you put around Mark Sanchez? You got a Santonio Holmes who you brought in, who's been known as a troublemaker in the locker room. The same thing has held true since he's been in New York. So I think they're not going to make the playoffs, and I think Rex Ryan is going to lose his job, as well as the general manager too, because he has to take the brunt of the blame as well. Because Mark Sanchez, he did win some road playoff games as a young quarterback, and then you bring in a Tim Tebow who has been nothing but a media circus since he stepped on the field.
I'm going to hit you up with the last question of the day. Thanks, Jarvis, for being on, but just one quick one. I'm going to put you on the spot. Will Tim Tebow ever be the starting quarterback at all in this Jets season?
Being that, yes, I see them basically throwing him in to try to save the day because the offense has been anemic with Mark Sanchez at the helm, and I think they would eventually put Tim Tebow just to say, okay, well, save us, Tim Tebow. I mean, we might as well put him in because, like I said, you brought him in to play quarterback, so why not go ahead and use him? But yes, I do see him eventually getting up under the center for the New York Jets this year.
And on that note, we thank you, Jarvis, so very much. Fresh off of getting married, we really thank you, Jarvis, for making this commitment to come on the show. We hope to see you in the future.
All right, man. Thanks, man.
All right, see ya. So that was Jarvis Davis. He worked at he's been in the radio business. You can, if you have a LinkedIn account, you could get on LinkedIn. Have him on. You can connect to him on LinkedIn, Jarvis Davis, on the program. So we have a lot more to talk about on the show. We want to hear what you have to say. 949-456-2911 is the number to call to let your voice be heard. All right, quick break, and when we come back, we'll discuss a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys. We had Jarvis talk about it right now. I'll give my thoughts about the Cowboys. I want to give my thoughts about the Atlanta Falcons game, and then lastly we'll talk about the Patriots, and then Monday Night Football predictions. So please stay tuned. This is the Cameorn Sadeghi Show. Okay, so as promised, in the NFL, we will discuss the Giants and the Cowboys, and I want you guys to get your voice to be heard. I know, I want to hear what you guys have to say. I want solid talk on here, okay? I'm not going to say, if you guys are going to call in and say anything negative, offensive, any bad language, you're off. You're immediately cut off, and I'm going to hang up on you. Just that simple. Call in at 949-456-2911 if you want to give a solid opinion. And I'm sorry I may be a little bit passionate about it, but don't come on here and totally ruin what I'm trying to do. Because it's a waste of time. So don't do it, and it's a waste of time to call on to be hung up on the program. Just that simple. Okay. So let's get back to the Giants and the Cowboys, just as Jarvis was saying, the blame. Look, I'm usually a Tony Romo supporter. I've come on here and say, Tony Romo's underrated. Tony Romo's, highly scrutinized, but today he had some awful plays. He really did. And we saw the good and the bad and the ugly. The good, not the good, the great, was when he made that superb comeback. And after being down 23-0, getting them all the way back, fighting all the way back, doing all those things, that was extraordinary. The bad part was the 4 interceptions, the unnecessary throws, the no patience whatsoever. That was what the issue was. That was uh, the craziness and the dubiousness of today's performance. Other than that, Tony Romo did a mediocre job. I mean, overall statistics-wise, he did a mediocre job. To me, though, I think he did an above-average job today. I've seen Tony Romo do some absolutely beautiful things. And I think and Javaris mentioned, and I'm happy he mentioned this because a lot of people don't. He really, an undrafted player, undrafted free agent. And this guy's really had to work hard, and he's really come up far to be this successful. It's just unfortunate as a totality and as a group, the Cowboys are formed. How their Cowboys conduct themselves and how they've conducted themselves in games with the penalties and the turnovers and this and that. It starts with Jerry Jones. It starts with Jason Garrett. I'm a little bit ashamed. Where's the discipline within this talented group? I don't see it. Because if you're that talented and you got a discipline, you do not turn it over 6 times. I don't care how talented you are, you're not going to win many football games turning it over 6 times. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. If you watch the NFL regularly. Okay? So, the Cowboys have to get back to the basics and get back to disciplined football. And it's football 101. Okay? Don't commit penalties. Don't turn the football over. It's amazing how some of these teams, like the Giants, really, to be honest, the Giants really didn't create that much for themselves. They were given a lot of turnovers, and they capitalized. They didn't really have to create a lot of plays and a lot of drives. They were really handed drives, handed all these things, and they cashed it in. The Giants, they don't turn the football over. Only two times today, compared to the Cowboys, 6. My, oh my. 6-2 ratio. That's just crazy. Okay? 3-1 ratio. Right there. So, it's unbelievable the way some of these teams are so undisciplined. I mean, the Giants, to be honest, the Cowboys just have as much talent as the Giants do. Maybe even more, some people say. They're really right there. Neck and neck. But it's all because of the turnovers and the undisciplined actions. The penalties, the turnovers, those things. Those are the things that kill you. It killed the Cowboys today. So, until then, I don't think this team's a Super Bowl contender. I don't think they even make the playoffs the way they're going at it. My gosh. How awful can it get for the Dallas Cowboys? Time and time and time again. Yeah. And the Giants, I wasn't really impressed by the way they played today. Because the Cowboys really don't have that great of an offensive line. The Giants have a solid defensive pass rush. And I felt like, even with the Cowboys comeback, I felt like the Giants were going to win that football game. I was going to be like, no way if the Giants were to lose. How? And it's unfortunate how some of these teams, as I've said before, turn it over. How? Unfortunate. Awful and unfortunate. So, we're going to move on from that and move on to the two teams that played across the pond. New England and St. Louis. New England Patriots and the St. Louis Rams. Yeah, I agree with Jarvis completely, 100%, totally, everything he said. You can't have... I mean, the Rams have such a solid defensive line. And they couldn't get the